Yeah, so we gotta get this going, so we can get it out.
We'll do it.
Dun, dun, dun,
And then maybe
dun.
planning after that.
Welcome, everybody.
To their house? No, civic.
I don't know if there's been any news this week, but,
It was last week.
I'm joking. We'll start out with introductions. I'm Roger Rail, I'm Chair of CARD and Chair of Star Residents for Safe Water, and this is my 26th year watching over this Gelman site, trying to make sure the right thing happens.
I'm Shauna Milkey, Ann Arbor resident and secretary for CARD.
Kathy Knoll, Scioto Township trustee, card rep.
Dan Hamill, the DEQ project manager for the Gelman site.
Here, Beth Collins, resident on top of the plume.
Marcia Haddock's resident.
Katie Justitis from Congresswoman Dingell's office.
Diana Wright, resident.
Kristen Schweighofer, environmental health director with the Washtenaw County Health Department.
Jenny Kahn, Washtenaw County Health Department, public health engineer.
Jeff Ainer, Ann Arbor resident and Ward 1 City Council.
I'm Jack Eaton, I represent the 4th Ward at Ann Arbor City Council.
Max Bagbone, Ann Arbor resident.
Ryan Stanton, Ann Arbor News.
And just so everybody who hasn't been here before knows, we do video these, and I post them a day or two later. So if you have any notes that you want to go back to, you can always go back to the video and hopefully pick out any parts of it that, and share any parts of it that you think should be shared with your stakeholder groups and things. So the first thing on the agenda, why don't you take over?
Yeah, this is a vote for the board members. I move that we approve the minutes from the February meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Who's supposed to do this detection of dioxane in Ann Arbor City drinking water?
Well, I have all down to discuss it.
Who knows the most about it here?
You.
Roger.
Once you read us, start it off.
Yeah, Roger.
Well, what I know
And then
is just
we
what
have
Brian
six
sent out to all of you and to the press, was that they detected in the intake 0.61 parts per billion of dioxane. And then after treatment, it was 0.03 or 0.030 if the way NP wrote it, parts per billion in the finished water. I was kind of hoping he'd be, because I wanted to follow up to see, is that just from the river? Or was that from the river plus Steer Farms well field?
So if you look on their website, there's a little bit more information.
Take
Certainly,
over.
if
No, you're
anyone
right, you're
else
right.
wants to
You've probably
jump
read the
in.
website, yeah.
But I did take a peek, and so that was from the Huron River.
Mhm.
They did have, they are doing monthly sampling, it appeared from this chart, and they posted all of 2018 samplings, and then I think a couple of the 2019 ones. It appeared that there was a positive detection in March of last year, and I'm gonna get it wrong if it was at the Huron River or Steer Farms. Steer Farms are the groundwater wells located kind of south of the city.
Wait. There was a previous detection?
Correct, in the wells.
Really?
That's what the chart said.
You have
But
that in
not
there, Dan?
in the finished
do I have-
water
Do you have
sample.
the chart she's referring to? 'Cause
No,
it's like-
I haven't gone on, you're talking about the
Yeah,
webpage.
it's on the city's website. It's probably
You're talking about
valuable to bring it up.
in the-
So we could all see it.
I went today and it said it was out of, like I couldn't go there whenever I looked today.
I was there, I think it was today.
So
Maybe it was
the
yesterday.
.061 was in the intake water
Correct.
not mixed with any of the wells.
Yeah, and 30 parts per trillion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there was a detection in the river once before last year, but it was not in the finished water.
Was it using the same measuring method?
It did not indicate, it's just a chart, so I would imagine it was, but I don't know. I feel like the city might have had a lab change at
Yeah.
some point, so
I
there
mean-
may have been something to that, I don't know.
So what am I supposed to?
Just
look for?
briefly, when I spoke to Brian last night, and, I mean, Dan,
You
you
wanna go to the
know,
water
he didn't tell me
treatment.
what testing method was used, he didn't tell me the number or anything, but I wanted,
I believe they utilize method
Yeah.
522.
yeah.
I have gotten data from them from Matt Nod before. Here's the agenda.
Thank you.
And it was Eurofins was the lab, and it was 522, method 522.
It's whatever they did in February and January.
Up at the top,
Yeah.
Roger, if
Yep.
you scroll down, yeah.
So under
departments.
news,
Over departments on the right.
oh, I was gonna say, if you do news, it says 1 water, dioxane water testing data, right?
You got it. Oh,
Oh, so
Go
close.
Go down all the way to one.
All
Oh,
right.
okay.
down a little.
Up a little.
It's the first link under the.
Yeah, first link under news.
No.
There's two, right?
The first bullet.
Okay.
Come down.
See the bullets?
The fact sheet, that's just the fact sheet though.
The top.
This one?
Right
No,
there.
1.4
Yeah, there
dioxane
you
water
go.
testing data.
Right
It's a
there.
data
Click.
list.
Second
Thanks.
link in that sentence.
Okay, is there-
Grind.
Can we get faster internet at the county?
No. There you go.
Oh, there it is.
Now, these are estimates. It looks like the one at the Steer Farm was above the detection limit, which I think is .068 or 8 or 6.
This one here?
Yeah, because it's not a J value, so I assume that means it's not an
I
estimate.
believe the detection, reporting limit for the 522 that I've been seeing was .07.
Oh,
So that
0.07.
is above. The J down here, when they have J, typically that means it's an estimate. And if you notice, it's below .07.
Right.
So they by the methodology, they have to J it, which identifies it as an estimate.
Anything that's below
Yeah.
.07.
Yeah, there's a reporting limit that the
Right.
lab has, using the method. They can look and see things lower a lot of times, as here, but they have to put a marker on it to identify to people that it's
So,
estimated.
I lied when I said that this is the first time it's been detected in Ann Arbor intake.
Correct. It's the first time it looks like it's in the source water, or in the drinking water.
Yeah, it's the first finish test of
Correct.
it.
Do we know if there's any prior year testing that had detectable levels? This is all 2018.
I would have to ask for it back to 14, but we've been,
Yeah, there's been ongoing testing.
But they haven't been using 522 that long,
no.
so it
Yeah.
should only be the last few years.
But do you think back in 18 it was 522?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
I'm imagining, given
It
the
had to
low,
be.
low levels.
In
that
order
they're-
to detect, otherwise this would
Okay.
have a J on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example, the methodologies, methods that Gelman uses is 1624, and the reporting limit would be 1 ppb, so it would be 1.0. The DQ lab, same thing. So having it low there, then that's probably 522.
What's 522 is a order of magnitude higher test, right?
Well,
More-
you can get lower.
More sensitive, rather, yeah, that's what I mean.
What's in the
Much more
notes,
sensitive.
Roger? Go down, they may tell you, is there anything there that tells you, okay, that's just some information, I thought maybe they may have the methodology in the notes, but they don't. This
Oh,
is-
No, I checked.
Just, I have a question for you now. Just looking at this, if indeed this testing has been done all along using method 522, and all of a sudden we're seeing this documentation of dioxane in the Ann Arbor drinking water supply, to me that says it's potentially more significant than what I thought initially when I read about this. Because we've been testing all along and now it's here,
Right.
using the
but-
same method.
I mean, yes, they're getting positive detections.
But in the drinking water, we're seeing it for the first time.
For the first time, right, I don't know what, the idea is, realize that the intake and the well farm, they've had 2 positive detections. Where is it coming from? That's a good question, what you said, but is it coming, as far as Gelman, is it coming from that? We're gonna have to get some more information.
How come this
the-
wasn't brought up in March or April? Or was it and we just
I don't know.
brushed over it?
Again, that's
This
the
is really
city
significant to
report.
me.
That's the first I've seen.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that the significant point is that this time when it was detected, they publicly
Right.
announced it.
Right.
I'm gonna suggest that something happened in November that has changed their attitude about disclosing information. I don't know what that might have been. I'm alluding
More
to the elections.
transparency. All right.
And so,
We have expressed our
we-
concerns.
We
you know.
pushed for
Right.
Transparency.
Okay, let me show you
better
why
release,
this,
you know?
why this middle column bothers me.
Uh-huh.
That's only about 15% of Ann Arbor's water supply. Let's
That
look where it is.
That well.
Well, it's not just one well.
Right, I mean, that field.
It's a series of wells.
Yeah.
Do you have,
Turn
do you have
off-
where they are, Roger? on
Yeah,
that?
I'm gonna bring it up
Oh,
once you
okay,
turn
I'm
off.
sorry, I didn't mean to rush.
And
Once
compared
I
to
turn
Honey
off these
Creek.
extra legends here, so we don't get those in the
I
way.
mean, for those of us who sit around dreaming about where this is going, I mean, the two concerns, of course, were Honey Creek, either, you know, post-treatment Honey Creek, or, I mean, now we see it in the well. You
Well,
know, that
well,
was- that was news
Roger's,
to me as of today.
I brought information on Honey Creek.
Okay, great.
Well, Roger's getting us a
No,
aerial.
I have here, here's the wellhead protection.
Okay. I was gonna go ahead and do that.
So, here's what the old wellhead protection area looked like for steer farms, and here's where all the wells are.
Well, out by the airport?
You know,
Yeah, that's the airport stuff.
Yeah.
This is only a mile south of the plume. This is the revised wellhead protection area for the steer farms. So anything dumped, and this is both of these are 10-year travel times. So anything, any contamination that hits any boundary here theoretically would be brought into the wells within 10 years.
By the pumping.
By, yeah, just the normal pumping
Drawn
of the
out
well.
for,
Yeah. it's
Based
pumping.
on, and it's interesting that they revised the skinny one to this fat one.
They went through and revised all
Yeah,
them a couple years ago.
I was
That's
there,
not my
yeah.
program, but they've expanded the
What is the
protection.
north edge of that large circle now? The one across-
Scio.
South Church Road.
That side of church?
yeah, this one,
Yeah.
side of church. Now, what I just popped up here was the wellhead protection zone for the northwest supply well.
The closed.
This
What's the
closed,
site called?
but this is what it was
Steel
when they did the evaluation.
STEELE farm, I think is what it's.
Steel farm.
Yeah.
Do we know, Roger, do we know which in particular of these is the steel farm well?
These guys,
Identified by the city?
this whole field, you see the kind of,
Oh,
These
It's-
little,
it's mixed.
target type things here.
Mixed wells, like I don't know
And
if
like
they tested one
Celine?
well or I think they
Oh,
tested
the
it.
airport.
They tested it
we don't know which well that came from that diagram. They might have more detail. I don't know if that was the.
I have a note here to talk to him about, to ask him if the testing was combined on the intake at the plant from this set of wells.
Or whether it was at
Or
the
they were out there and
site,
they did a dip.
each well, or was it a
Yeah,
combination?
just, you know, it would be good to know that.
Yeah, make a note. I think
No, I got
that'd be
it,
good to know. But anyway, going back to the northwest supply well, this was the 10-year in the yellow. This is the 20-year. 20-year travel time is the green around it. We don't have a 20-year travel time for the steer farm wells. The consultant who did the analysis wasn't required to do 20, 30, 40-year.
They go to 10.
Just 10 was the standard, that's the standard. Because what contaminant would stay in the ground more than 10 years?
So would you like to share your Honey Creek info?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can share.
I mean, I don't know what to say about that. I wish they had 20 on there.
So I didn't expect to have to talk about groundwater today.
Really?
Well, I don't have to.
The groundwater being contaminated.
Oh, you mean
in
wells?
The city,
Info.
the city's groundwater being contaminated.
Move on to it.
This is a startling revelation to me. I don't
How
know why I
deep
missed
is
that
that?
earlier thing.
Well,
But that goes to shows goes to show you that there's information that's out there that's not being shared with this group. That not being brought to our attention in a timely fashion.
So I don't have access to all this stuff because I've asked. I actually haven't asked since I've been on council, but, you know, they have maps that are, you're not supposed to be able to see because it shows where all the water infrastructure is and all that. And so I think it would be interesting for someone who couldn't see that, and it might not be me, to see where that intake line is running through the city, and if the intake line is running right through where the plume is, and if we're
Picking up any plume?
picking up some plume on the way by, because when you look at
No,
the
it's
water
pressurized.
treatment
Water's
facilities, yeah, you
treated.
would,
Oh,
yeah, there's no
okay.
way it could be, they would know that, right?
Right.
I mean,
It's more than 5%.
yeah, so, I don't know what to do.
Roger?
It's not good.
I don't mean to be the naysayer in the group, but do any of the businesses out in the industrial park area there, beyond the airport, east of the airport?
These
Or
guys,
has the airport ever used flame retardant foam?
Well, I'm not sure that.
that's a different issue.
That's, the
But-
city's
yeah,
supply.
but there is a lot of
industry out there.
I don't know that we even know that
Well, but
for
we
sure
could have
that
packed it.
the water in the
Right, but it's already
Barton
been
Pond is from
You know,
Oh, it
plume.
has.
yeah, the Huron
I
River
think
has
it's
PFAS in
rational
it.
to believe that
Which one?
The
because
Huron
there's so
River.
much of it
Oh, no,
in
no.
plume.
Right
But
there at the
it
well.
could be from another
There's
source. as
none at the
well, you know.
wells.
Well, the other explanation is that both samples could be bleed over from other samples that whoever the testing service is.
It's so low.
It's so low. When you get down to parts per trillion like that, it could just be a faulty reading. That's part of the reason I think that the city is now using a second testing lab. You remember Brian's
Yes.
response?
Because we're not seeing consistent
Yeah.
detections, and so I
So-
think that's certainly something to ask.
So-
And he said marches are split to 2 labs.
Yes.
And the fact that the Steer Farm didn't show up again
Correct.
since March kind of bolsters that idea, because if there really was dioxane permeating a mile, several miles
It's hard
To the
to
south.
believe.
over a groundwater divide, that would be a game changer, even more than having low levels of dioxane in your finished water.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that'd be so.
Yeah, but so let's put a pin in that.
So that leaves the Honey Creek theory. What do you say, Dan?
You ready?
I'm ready.
I'm dying to know you brought a
No,
chart.
well, I brought some information. Just realize that, Gelman is allowed to discharge to Honey Creek under an NPDES permit. I have a copy of the current permit. And they're allowed to discharge a monthly average of 7 parts per billion at their outfall. And they're allowed to discharge under the permit a daily max of 22 parts per billion. So I brought the kind of printout from the database over the last couple of years, and basically they have been ranging from let's say 3 to 7.5 or so, 3 to 8 they have to sample that daily. So so they have not gone out of their monthly average of 7, gone over, or they would get cited by, or have to talk to our water resources group. They provide this information monthly in their reports that I post on the webpage. So if anybody wants, just give me a call and I can show you what I'm talking about. Then we did some testing ourselves, if you remember, within the last couple of years, at the request of stakeholders like yourselves. And we have, for example, we have the Honey Creek at Dexter Road, which is further up. It's on Honey Creek, and back in 2017 through September last 2018, we tested a couple times. We got a couple of non-detects, and then we got a 1.2 and a 2.1 parts per billion up at there, at different.
Which side of the road is that on? North
Okay,
side
I
or
have to,
south
I have
side?
to picture it.
Isn't that the marshy area?
No, where Honey Creek crosses.
There's a home here, it has a big lawn in front of it.
In a
here.
big white, yeah, okay, be to the north.
Yeah.
It's easy to get down to the
Right.
creek,
Otherwise
you go in that
walk
direction.
This is a
yes,
very
it's
steep
tough.
slope here,
Yes,
remember.
so. And but if you follow Honey Creek back to the unnamed trib, we tested several of the, what I call trib, it's on the database as trib, at the intersection of Jackson Road during that same time frame, and it ranged from 1.9 to 3.9 parts per billion.
So that's, again, on the north side, probably.
Yes,
So that'd be here by MW 41 S&D.
yeah, it'd be, yeah, you're right.
Which, by the way, I don't think these are,
Those aren't right, they're closer to the road, I think.
yeah, well, I've been pointing that out for years, that these XYs are wrong.
Okay.
But I get it from you.
They were in the database when I came to
I
the
know,
DEQ.
well, you get it from Gelman, and Gelman's wrong too.
So,
You're able to find them though, so.
yeah, we get them close. And then tributary, the Trib, where it crosses Park Road, which is even back toward Little Lake. Again, we had during the same 2017, 2018, we had dioxane ranging from 2 to 3.8 parts per billion. And then Little Lake itself, right by Little Lake, right by one of them, I parked in one of the manufacturers, right, yeah, up toward the east end. Up that direction is where I took the sample during that same time frame, and that in Little Lake it ranged from 1.6 to 4.1 parts per billion. I just want to make sure everybody's clear. You know, the Gelman is allowed to discharge at their outfall under an NPDES, current NPDES permit of those up to 7 monthly average 7 ppb and a daily max of 22 ppb. So the permit is going to be expires on October 1st. They will be submitting, and again, it's not my group of DEQ, it's the Water Resources group that issues the NPDES permit. They will be submitting they're required to submit their new permit application on April 4th or around there. And then the Water Resources people will start working with them to come up with a new permit. Then take the one, like I said, October 1st, the other one expires, and they would want one in place by that time. They are, if anybody wants to take, I brought the permit itself. During that time frame from April to October, they will be generating, as they did last time, they will be generating a fact sheet about what the permit application is about, you know, what type of treatment, what they're doing, and then they will have a public notice about the permit where people can submit questions and comments and during the permitting process. So that's what they're currently allowed to discharge. So there's positive detections, you know, in Trib and Honey Creek. I also want to point out that I got too many papers. They call me Mr. I don't like they're trying to call me Mr. Manila Folder at work. You know, so. They also under the permit they have to sample what they call in the databases HCHR, Honey Creek, Huron River. They do not have to test for dioxane up there. They have to test for bromate. Now, I have done some testing up there, grabbed at the same location that they did over the last couple of years, and of course, I can't find it right away here.
But that's in the database, isn't it?
The bromate?
No, I know the bromate is.
Yeah.
Your testing of dioxane.
We did not detect any up there during the...
No, but your testing results are in the database.
Yes, they are. It would be listed under HCHR, if the sampling location. And, you know, we followed them up over the last couple of years and tested, you know, a handful, 3 or 4 times. Yeah, I think it was up to 4, probably 3, maybe 3, and we got non-detects. Now, realize that is this Honey Creek? Is this where it goes in?
Yeah,
Oh.
right here.
Right there.
Okay, the sampling is done not right at that the HCHR where they started collecting their sample is you have to kind of go downstream in in the Huron River a little
Oh,
bit.
really?
Yes. At least that's where we collected it when I you know.
You collect it in the Huron River down here?
Yes, down further. I'd have to get exactly.
Well, here's the railroad track.
Yeah, we were right along the railroad track, you know, right on the, probably truthfully, yeah, right along there.
Right on here?
Yep. I have to get exactly where.
How about on this peninsula?
No, we came off of whatever that road is, right by the railroad track.
Here in River Drive?
No, this is a railroad.
Okay, okay.
So if you're talking about the road, this is Huron River Drive here. There's a house here.
Is there,
Here's that new house that looks like a caboose.
okay.
That house is great. The stonework on that thing is extraordinary.
Yeah,
I don't know,
there's an
that's
extra
where-
railroad track.
They really did a beautiful job on
Yeah.
that place.
So Dan, where do you sample? You don't sample here in the creek, you sample.
Is there, okay, this is a road here, right?
This is Huron River Drive right here.
Okay, go down here on River Drive, go down.
Oh,
And we,
down there.
yeah, so we sampled somewhere, they sampled somewhere down there.
Down here?
There's a couple pullovers along
Yeah,
there.
yes.
Yeah, and it's
We
a
went to-
boat launch.
We went to what they have been sampling as.
Why is it called Honey Creek at Huron River Drive then?
I have no idea, Roger, that's the way it was in the database.
That's news to me.
And-
That's Huron River, that's not Honey Creek at Huron River Drive.
Well, that's.
There's a lot more water here than in here.
Honey Creek is
It's
Huron
a
River.
It's a conflict.
Might be a little diluted.
That was what the site was identified as.
Oh, geez, so the bromate numbers are from there too?
Yes, they do that.
Holy cow.
What do you feel it's
That's
diluted or
two
something?
revelations today that I wasn't expecting.
Do you feel that there's too much river dilution there or something?
Well,
It looks
when
like
it says Honey Creek at Huron River, I'm thinking right here, where Honey Creek, the mouth of Honey Creek empties into the Huron River.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Or
in
at the
this,
bridge
they would
over-
have backwater, you know, when it's high water, the water pulls back.
But I mean, is that testing site, such as he's identified?
That's the.
That's been consistently the
Yeah,
same place.
I
so-
basically tag along with them where they
Yeah.
go daily to get their HCHR sample, and it was,
Okay.
we went down the road and then turned around and went to the north.
Yeah, we went
Off of the, I mean,
location
literally,
that's
it's very
consistent.
steep bank there, and there's a couple of pull-offs,
Yeah, yeah.
and they sampled it from there.
Okay, well, that, I guess
At least we know.
Yeah.
it doesn't prove a damn thing about Huron, Honey Creek though.
No, it doesn't, but I mean, it is.
And that's where their permitted bromate testing takes place, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So, we don't have an XY for that. So,
I didn't look on, is there HCHR, you don't have an XY in the database? Okay.
no, otherwise I would have brought it up at a previous meeting. It's like, that's not a good sample location. You want a good sample location, you go right here. Here on River Drive, there's a culvert right there. You can get down to the creek, and you know you're getting creek water, you're not getting any river water backwash.
There's actually a bridge there, Roger. There's a bridge there. It's more-
Oh yeah, there's a bridge right here, you can see it.
Yeah,
So-
no, exactly.
Yeah, so you can just go down over the bridge and collect water directly from the creek.
Right. It's
I
not
mean-
ideal. I don't know for sure.
Given the revelations, may I ask a couple of questions?
By the way, this is Patty Benson's house right here. Remember Patty Benson, my predecessor, SRSW? Go ahead.
Well, one, does the Gelman permit specify where they're to sample? Or do they pick the spot and
I don't
everybody
know,
tags along?
it doesn't identify in the permit itself where the locations. Again, it was.
As it comes up for review, could it? It would save an awful lot of confusion here, and certainly,
Good.
and
I guess it
certainly
would,
we
yeah.
have the
Again, that's-
expertise to determine a good sample site, and Gelman is not necessarily driven to pick the best sample site, as we see.
And that very good question, and I think a question that can be submitted during this permitting process from April through.
And the other
Okay.
question I had was,
James, it's not me to call, but
Let's just pick
does
one.
the permit specify the sampling technique?
The actual procedure of gathering the sample out of the,
Yeah.
out of the.
No, that's dip a test tube in the water. I'm talking about the lab test. Whatever method 522 is, or whatever.
No, it does
what-
not identify, it does not identify the analytical method that's required.
It should. Both. Both should be specified before next October.
Yeah, well, it can be worded in such a way, it should use the latest,
No.
most sensitive EPA test, which is 522 right now. There might be a better test coming down the road.
Well, the
Like-
NPDES
Oh, it
permit
should
doesn't
be the
require
best
one
science we know of on April
Only
whenever.
bromine.
Wait, one person talking to
I beg your pardon, go ahead.
The NPDES permit that we're referring to doesn't require 1,4-dioxane testing,
At that point up
only
there.
bromate.
I just happened to have seen, because we were getting some questions from
Well, what,
Card, I went ahead and
regardless,
tagged
then
along.
let's pick the
and,
sample
you know,
procedure for bromine. I mean, it does, whatever you're sampling for also has to include the procedure that you test with.
You'd think so.
No, that's only, I mean, anything less than that is poor science. Very poor science.
So,
Roger, I have a question, but
yeah,
I just want to jump in, just a couple quick process questions overall regarding the permit. First off, Dan, you mentioned the Jackson Office Water Resources Division, that's Luke Golden and other officials.
Right, just realize they're the local district. The permit is actually written up in Lansing and more what I'll call the corporate Lansing, you know, the water resources. There's a permit writer that the last one was, you have her name here.
But it's written up in Lansing.
Right, they're the ones that'll be will be working with Gelman, you know, doing the permit. The field office, the Jackson office, doesn't write the NPDES permits for, the field offices don't. They go through the Lansing.
Okay, so they don't have specifically a role in that.
Well, they have to have a little role. They assist, but the actual permit, and
Okay.
they'll assist in Lansing with the notices, with the local interfacing with local people.
Okay, and to go further, and this is kind of a bold question to ask, we talked about data and what data to apply in terms of into the permit. Does the MDQ have the discretion to deny the permit?
Absolutely. It's a permitting process. The DEQ issues that permit under an NPDES permit, as I understand it, different division, please, if I'm not saying it exactly right.
Sure.
It issues the permit under, it's a federal permit. The federal EPA that gives the authority to the DEQ to run the NPDES program in the state of Michigan. So they do the permitting in Michigan, but and oversee that under authority by the EPA.
what standard do they use when writing the permit?
I do
Is
not
it the
understand.
EPA 3.5 or 035, or is it the state's 7.2 parts per billion for dioxane?
Well, Roger, we're talking about criteria, and it's a totally, it's a different procedure.
No, but the permit has
The permit has.
85 in it. So is this new permit
No.
going to have
The
7.2?
current permit doesn't have 85. The current permit has several limits that they are allowed, they must meet related to the discharge into a surface water body, and you're getting outside my experience, and the calculations related to dilution, for lack of a better word, all that stuff. So they are within, like I said, under dioxane, they're allowed a monthly average of 7 parts per billion, and then a daily max of 22. Now, again, with changes in the law, changes that way, they will go through, under this permitting process, they will go through a new evaluation to come up with those numbers. Since at that time, it was 85.
Right, so
Drinking water criteria,
it should be even
so,
lower.
and well, it was also, the GSI, they use all the,
Right,
all the
exactly.
things. So I just don't know that process to be able to give information on what you can expect.
When was it issued, the current permit?
2016, February. And it expires on October 1st, 2019.
And there'll be a public notice.
There'll be
when
a public notice. There'll be, again, on that public notice, there'll be kind of, I showed you the last things where they had a fact sheet, just basically a summary of what the permitting process and how some of the mixing zone, some of the information they utilize to go through that permitting.
We'll
Yeah,
keep an
yes.
eye out, oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, just quick, we'll keep an eye out for that public notice and post it to the CAR website and put a
Right.
link to where people can submit public.
When's that likely due?
Under the current permit, they have to submit for the new permit by early April.
So when's the notice likely to go out?
I don't know what the last one, I don't have that, how they try to do that. Is there a date here? December 11th. Okay, so if the last permit was in February, became active, it was December 11th, 2015, the permit became active in February 2016.
So was it a 60 and 90 day comment period?
Something like that. Permit takes effect February 1st, 2016, and is done on October 1st, 2019. And all the forms, fees, and everything are for the new one, for renewing, is due to the DQ by April 4th. And they have not submitted it.
We're down to 30 days right now.
Well, that's just the date that they have to submit it.
Who is they?
Gelman.
So
Gelman
they-
has to submit the application, they have to submit all the fees required, and then DQ wants it April 4th, so they have enough time to go through the permitting process and issue a
public comment,
permit.
And the public
And
comment.
everything required under the permitting process to identify a new or reject, identify a new permit. October 1st, the other permit expires, so if, let's say, nothing is
Well,
completed, they won't have a permit to discharge their treated groundwater.
That's fine, I got an idea where they can put it. So, but the point is, my thought is, if CART as a group takes on the role of just one more public commenter and tries to influence some of the two fundamental, not to take any credit, but the two fundamental questions I asked, plus several more that I'm sure are relevant, but sample testing technique, as well as define sampling sites by XY. I would suggest lat long, if that's what you mean by XY.
Yeah.
And
Version of that.
Well, also
it would be
limits.
much more efficient and I think much more weighty
Yeah.
if we could get DEQ's collective ear and say, why don't you just write the permit like this right now and let Gelman comment? DEQ, let's be proactive in this, let's be professional in this, and come up with the best science we can. And backing up just a little bit, Roger I think knows, but I don't know if everybody else knows. For a few years, I worked for EPA out on Plymouth Road, and I have written and published in the Federal Register NPRMs and PRMs and analyzed public comment, and I've also written a number of what we call technical advisory circulars, which more or less carry the weight of law. But I can tell you that what we're talking about now, even based on my experience with EPA now 50 years ago, because I'm old, 50 years ago, this would not fly. EPA procedure 50 years ago, this would not have gotten out of the meeting. Somebody would have said, let's do this right, or let's not do it at all.
Yeah, another reason to have EPA take over.
I mean, it's the old saying, if you keep dancing with the devil, you're going to be dancing with the devil.
And what I noticed is that we're not talking with the right division of DEQ. It's a different division that's
Well, perhaps somebody
writing
could
the permit, that's drafting the permit.
Yes.
If somebody could suggest that, I suggest we take a
suggest-
core group with this group and
Well,
schedule a
if-
meeting in Lansing.
Is the purpose of
Have them
this?
come to a meeting, have them come, like, why aren't they here today? if this was coming.
Well, I'm thinking of mountains in my hamlet. Might be better if we went there.
Yeah, but
If we're,
All-
if six or, no.
we're gonna get a bus and go to Lansing and talk to them. They might as well come to a card meeting. This is everybody that's in the community here.
Well, then let's go. We'll sit in the lobby and wait.
And you're not communicating with the people who are writing the permit?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I thought.
Well, it's April is when he said.
April, beginning of April, we,
It's
you
like
know,
next
we.
month.
Right. And so they'll get the permit application in and start their process. We then start, if they have questions on our part, like last time, as I remember, again, I was just starting with Gelman as a project, you know, helping Sybil out. You know, we answered any of their technical questions, where we were, what the criteria, you know, those types of questions. They handle the process. There's a permitting process of how they come up with the required discharges, the limits and all that stuff. So I won't get involved until after the application process is application is submitted by Gelman.
Just so I understand, who is physically writing the permit? Who's got their hands on the keyboard?
Last time-
Is it EPA, is it
No.
Gelman, is it DEQ?
It's DEQ, it's the Water Resources Division. It's the last time it was Jessica Stiles up in Lansing. I do not know who's assigned. Again, I haven't gone that far to see who's going to be doing the permit. The permit application has to come in, as I understand it, and then they will assign the permit writers, it's a team, as I understand it.
And then, so they write the permit sometime in April.
No,
that's
it
the
will not be written in
application
April.
deadline.
It will take probably through September. You know, they have to have it done by October 1st.
Okay.
That's the goal. So that's
All
why
right.
DQ requires, you got to
So
give us the stuff in
the-
April.
So we have time from April to September to feed information to
Yes.
the water.
Yeah, they're not going to
resources.
do it in a couple days, especially,
But the comment period is after they issue the permit.
no, it's during the process, from April through.
When's the comment period?
I don't, you're getting
Sometime
outside
between April
the,
and September.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
I don't know. I don't
wanna
know
know.
when
So
they
you-
were gonna.
They will send out a
Yeah, we'll
notice.
find
Yes.
out.
Yeah, so I know they'll send out a
2
notice,
months
but I don't
before
know
they
whether it's a
Yes.
30-day,
Based on-
60-day, or 90-day.
Based on the last time, it was 2 months before they issued the permit. I just brought the last times
I know.
just as examples.
I know, but, you know, I'm thinking about lead time, you know, and, you know, if it's a certain time of year, people are gone, I'm worried that this
Like
permit,
also-
this has happened before with the DQ, where the permit was issued, and there wasn't enough time for the local community to respond in whole.
You know all this stuff.
I'm just kidding.
What's the permit duration?
Roger, what I'll commit tonight for the card is I'll go back and I'll start pursuing, okay, who's gonna do it up in Lansing, and then kind of get an idea, even if it's just estimates, on when they would likely issue a comment period, what the process will be. I'm sure they're not gonna wanna say it's gonna be this, and this. They're gonna look at the permit information getting in, because they'll review it against what the requirements are. If Gelman hasn't given them all the information, the check bounces, whatever you wanna call, you know, they'll get back with them. But I'll try to get some information and provide it to CARD on that process that's coming up sometime between April and October.
Do you know
Person
who will
name.
be managing that process?
No, again, last time, I have that from the last time, but I do not
Who
know.
was it last time?
It was a DQ person named Jessica Stiles.
STYLE?
No.
CILES.
Yeah.
So we would be particularly interested in how long
STILES.
the comment period is going to be, if you could find that out.
Right.
Yeah, I remember.
Like I said last time, it was about 2 months, but it probably didn't go right up to when they issued a permit. I will try to find out on comment period.
Well, while you're doing that one, why don't you just do all the permits when they were issued and what the comment period was?
What do you mean, all the permits?
Well, there's been a series of permits here, discharge permits. over the years.
Every 2.5 years, you mean?
Every 5 years or 4 years, something like that.
Well, it's every 4,
So-
whatever it is, 16 to 19.
But how is that relevant to what's gonna happen this next time
I want
around?
to make sure that the comment period and the time of notice.
I'll
and
see
all
if,
that's within
I'll ask
bounds of
about
what we
that.
had before.
Historically.
Because I remember what happened prior to the contested case. I think there was either a 60 or 90-day comment period.
Prior
This
to
was
what?
after we had a public hearing on this. And the
For what
permit was
project?
issued, and, let me finish. The permit was issued, and there was a comment period, and it was, the amounts that were in the permit at that were good for the community. It was closer to the 0 to 3 price per billion that we wanted. And within the last week, when, near the end of the comment period, the company contested the case. The city and the county could not respond fast enough to contest it. So SRSW did. I think maybe it was even my name or Patty's name was on it as a citizen. And we held the line until the county and the city could come and join the contested case and keep the company from dumping 60 or 100 parts per billion into the creek, which is what they would have had if they would have gone to the contested case by themselves. We got it down to what's in the current permit. Or even, it was like 10:30, I think, at that time. Now it's 7:22. Had that not happened, you would have had detectable levels in the Huron River long before now. You know, how fast we can respond as a community makes a difference. And if we're not getting all this information in time, just like we don't know the XY, we didn't know where they were sampling the river. So how can we, if the first step to solving the problem is defining the problem. And if there's data being withheld and lost and misplaced and deprecated and ignored and considered not important, when we're talking about water for this community, for this area, the future of Ann Arbor, everybody has to do their due diligence to a better extent than what's happened now. That's my rant for the day.
That's a good one, right? That was good.
Roger, if I could just reiterate, if we, CARB, wait until we have the opportunity to appeal as just public.
I think what you're saying is, let's write our own permit.
No, let DEQ write the permit.
And then we meet with the
DEQ has
writers
to
and
do
say,
it.
this is what it should be, because this is what we're gonna be talking about
Yes.
during the, and let's move it up a little bit, and like you say, be more proactive.
Well,
And I think
yeah,
that's a good deal.
we'll tell DEQ what we expect, and we'll wait until April and make sure they come through.
So let's.
I mean, it's lead follower, get out of the way, and right now I feel like I'm trying to stop the train by standing in the tracks.
That's a good point. I think we should, we'll get with, who'd like to work on that besides the two of us?
I've been there, I've done that. I know what an NPRM looks like, I know what a PRM looks
And I'm
like.
sure somebody from the city would like to work on it too.
And I know what stiff
Well, we'll
timing
reach out to our
guidelines look like
colleagues and see
because
if that's true.
I've stayed up late trying to meet them.
Anybody?
I mean, because this most directly affects city water, because you're talking about surface water discharges.
Yeah.
And that's gonna go most quickly to the city water supply. It may seep into the groundwater along the way where Honey Creek loses to groundwater, which is how we were able to contest that bad permit back in the day. You know, the company was gonna dump it into the 60 or 100 parts per billion, and then if it happened to hit any of these test wells or anybody's drinking water well along, they would just stop discharge until it got down to a lower level.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of plan is that? How many years is it gonna take to clear up?
By the way, if people wanted to look at the permit information that I have just shown you tonight, it's on our webpage. It's on up the top, when you first page, you'll see.
It's easy to find.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, I'll volunteer to help if there isn't an expertise requirement.
Well, even if there is, you're probably the most qualified one. So.
Yeah, go for it.
And I'm not trying to compliment you, I'm just saying that.
I have great confidence in anything that Roger does, and I'm willing to assist.
If I may, one more rant, Roger.
Sample survey, you know.
So, we need a,
For doing it.
One more rant.
I have to take my leave.
I've been following this as a member
Thank you.
Enjoy those kids
and
while they're young.
Oh, wow.
news reports
I
for
love live
years.
music.
I've been here for 2 years now, maybe? Time flies. And I've recently been collecting an awful lot of information on PFOS, PFAS around the state.
me too.
Well, rightly so. But the point is, the point I'd like to make is, with all respect to the city drinking water people, whatever you want to call them, I think we're barking up the wrong tree. Right now, because I went to a hearing up at Wixom here a while ago about that plating company, I sat through that. We're taking the attitude that an industry can pump anything they want into a water supply or into the groundwater. And it then becomes the burden of the city to fix it. And that's just not right. Because Gelman is not paying for the fix. If the city of Ann Arbor puts through all of the filtering that we're talking about and the charcoal filtering for the PFAS, PFOS, okay? We're gonna pay for that.
And Danaher's like
That's not free, we're not gonna have a cookie
multi-trillion
sale to
dollars.
put in that.
They're
And we're
way
still,
bigger than
and
Gelman.
it should never be there in the first place.
And that's just surface water. Once PFAS starts getting into groundwater on all these little sites, they're gonna be
Then there's just gonna be
scores
hell
of
of
little Gelman sites that I don't think the DEQ is prepared to handle.
Well, I think there was,
Certainly the communities are.
with all respect, I think DEQ is whistling past the graveyard right now, hoping for divine intervention.
Well, I think we need to get the DEQ more resources or, yeah.
Right, because they've got other jobs too.
It's a big job. It's
I
overwhelming.
understand, it's very difficult, but I haven't seen any reports yet that the new environmental quality manager is pounding on Jennifer Granholm's door.
Well,
But that's a different rant, and I will stop. Thank
The
you.
issue is this stuff should not be pumped in anywhere to start with, not to
yeah.
try to figure it out.
Before we leave this topic of Honey Creek, Huron River interface, if it's being sampled in the Huron River, I'm not just concerned about dioxane, I'm concerned about bromate.
That is what the NPDES permit requires. The sampling is for bromate.
Yeah, but
And
if they're sampling in the Huron River instead of in Honey Creek, there could be higher levels of bromate getting into Barton Pond.
Mhm. That's a very dilute sample where they're taking.
They also sample other locations on Honey Creek for bromate, I believe. Check the database, but.
Yeah, I'd have to check the database, but yeah,
Like,
they have done,
And
they have
Dexter
done,
and-
yeah, they have done stuff along other places. I'm not sure that it's a requirement daily like it is under the permit, but they have done other places. Roger, that page that you were just on has historic information. You were
Right, I saw
asking me about permit info, I forgot about that. So it has the last couple, if you look, it has the last issuance, 2010, 2005, it has information similar to what we presented, the permit itself, the fact sheet, the comment period, so there's links there that you may be able to go in and
Yeah.
gather some info.
One could read through all this and glean out
Yes.
what the different times were,
Yeah, when things were submitted and how long it took on a
what the
particular
difference
permit here.
between it would really be good when somebody has time there, if you don't.
It's on
would
the
be to
web.
have a table of those permits to show what happened to the permit over the years. Because it's actually pretty good news on the permit, and that they've tightened the standards over the years. And I think that's the kind of thing to put in front of the permit writer to say, hey, look what direction this is going in. And then remember, that was 85 parts per million, so now there's 7.2. You may want to.
They already know that. They know the 7.2, because I talk with our local people, and they,
Well, that's what I'd like to hear, is that they know something.
Consider it.
they have to. Yeah, they are. They already know, you know, the permit is done on October 1st, and they've already had some questions, not recently, but related to the 7.2 and the requirement that, you know, what are they going to allow discharge into the trip into Honey Creek that, you know, that relates to the 7, you know, to potentially 7.2.
Was that 45 minutes?
Mm.
It was an hour. So anything more on this section of dioxane in Arbor drinking water? Anybody else got any comments on that?
Well, just in terms of trying to understand the significance of it, I guess we can't draw any conclusions yet until there's more data, more detections. Okay.
We did take care of a couple of the unknowns, like where was the sample location? But there may be, I mean, there's a lot we don't know about this. We don't know why it happened. This should not have happened.
Is there a way to tell whether the dioxane that's taken into our water system actually came from the plume or another source? I mean,
No.
No, there's no way to test, I don't know.
Doesn't
the
have
way-
any fingerprint on it.
Fingerprint that you may have heard in chemistry, there's no way that way. We have to just look at, you know, if you get a positive detection at a location, what, you know, where could it be coming from? The Gelman plume is a potential, but again, up to this point, we kind of know what was going in Honey Creek. We have groundwater information, albeit that you have complained that you may not have enough wells, okay, but we don't have any indication that we're getting, you know, high levels, you know, that it's going into the Barton Pond area, the intake area. So, and realize, I do want to stress that there are other sources of dioxane. It's not just you know, it's not, you know, it's used in other, you know, in other things, and
A lot of consumer products.
right.
But what
and-
about, oh, I'm sorry.
And so, I'm not trying to say it's not, I'm just trying to say, you know.
Well, just the fact that it's also in the well down by the airport
Right.
indicates that there are other places
Potential
that can come
places,
from.
right.
You know, and that I'm very cautious to connect Gelman to this early detection.
Yeah.
It certainly indicates to me that we need more wells
Well, that's why I
on
wanted to
the
see
northern edge, you know.
where those are, Roger. Where are all the wells that, between the river, Barton Pond, and the plume? Like just those red and yellows?
Well, here's what's on here, it's what's in the official database.
Uh-huh.
Here's what was in the 95 database.
Oh, and we just don't
Those are
sample?
sample wells, not water intake wells.
These
Those
are
are
mostly
the water
homeowner
supply
wells
wells.
here.
To individual people or
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
the
these
city?
are homeowner wells.
But we don't
drinking water
sample
wells.
those anymore.
Now, let me take away, just because that's a lot of wells, let me take away the ones that were non-detect. Because this kind of overstates the
And
problem.
that's what Jenny checks, right?
I'm gonna take, watch the screen, I'm gonna take away the ones that were non-detect at 95.
Mhm.
So we have some samples in the creek that were above level of detect in 95.
But
There
we
was
don't-
no sampling done for dioxane at the stringent level that we just saw. So it could have been higher levels found in the early days when there was really high concentrations being done, runoff from the various ponds and things. But the fact that we have some non-detects shows that dioxane wasn't here then. Now, was dioxane in personal care products and laundry products back in those days? These are all wells and septic.
But what about from Maple, you know, all of the city water drinkers up,
Oh, you want me to turn on all the wells? These are just the ones that
well,
were
all
sampled.
the, yeah, sampling like north of the big
Right,
red.
so again, this is why information from the local units helps. Here's the Scioto Township wells. Well, these also could be some vacant properties that could have wells, similar for Ann Arbor Township. So these are all the homeowner wells that could get contaminated. Some of these could be on the pathway as dioxane moves towards Barton Pond. So we're talking about scores of homeowner wells.
So it's not going from the big plume north?
Well, sure it is.
Well,
I mean,
How come
you
we're
tell
not
me.
testing up there then?
the plume.
Well, they are testing here.
Oh.
I can, to the next meeting, bring my map, I'm sorry I don't have it today, and show you which drinking water wells we are testing, if that
Wait a minute,
helps.
we have your data. Don't we?
Isn't there a map
You
with a
should.
plume that's
Yeah.
moving towards Barton Pond?
Well, in West
No.
Park, and, I mean, I know we test West Park, but,
We, Washtenaw County and the DEQ, each year completes water supply well testing. So we're going to be starting 2019 here in March, April.
April.
So we do test,
There.
we do test. If you'll notice, we do test some to the north there, within, outside the prohibition zone. And they will be tested this year. We do test along Elizabeth. We do test out to the west too. And just another thing I want to point out is you keep identifying that we're things moving to Barton Pond. Please realize that under the current CJ, go to the prohibition zone. That prohibition zone right there, it is allowed to move around in there. That's what the prohibition, that's why it was put in place. It's an institutional control. There's no water supply wells allowed within that zone, but the contamination is, under the current CJ, is allowed to move around in there as long as it doesn't go outside that pink boundary at concentration greater than 85 ppb.
which it did now in West Park, though.
That's
Well,
within
that's
the
within the
prohibition, that's
prohibition
within the
zone.
prohibition zone.
I
And
thought that was the new prohibition zone.
No, that's,
Okay.
that's within the prohibition. The prohibition zone goes from Wagner all the way over to the river.
Yeah.
See, there's the pink and the red. See that whole.
the red is the original prohibition zone,
and
the pink is the
was
expanded
added.
prohibition zone.
So
This is
it's
what's
allowed
carved
to.
out.
It's allowed,
Okay.
groundwater contamination, the plume is allowed to move around in there. There are some restrictions that they can't go past Maple Road at a certain concentration. And like I've said in the past, Gelman is in compliance with the requirements under the CJ. Now, we have 7.2 as a new criteria as opposed to 85, which was in the old CJ. And that's what we've been in the confidential negotiations that we keep referencing with the interveners, with Gelman and the DEQ. That's what we are doing to implement that new criteria. That implementation could involve, additional investigation activities. It would, involve, potential additional pumping. There's all kinds of, but it's how we are going to implement that new criteria. How we are going to utilize that in a new CJ. We are doing it in the confidential negotiations as ordered by the judge to try to come up with a mutually agreeable document, CJ modification, that everybody could sign. And that's what's been going on it's now approaching 2 years, and to be frank. And then the next step, if we can't come to an agreement, then things will actually go to court. There'll be the court process where the judge will then have the say of what are the requirements for a new CJ. So I just realize that things are allowed to move around in there. I know that's not like that, and I'm not saying I do. I'm just saying that is the current regulatory entity that we have, the DQ has to, is regulating, using to regulate this site. And so that's where we are. We are going to, like I said, every year we work with the Washtenaw County. They suggest new wells, other wells. We sample certain locations every other year. So we are continuing that to make sure water supply, to try to identify if there's anybody at risk with groundwater, that utilize groundwater as drinking water.
And we always take input from CARD, so.
Yes, I
Keep your
mean,
suggestions
I'm
coming.
sitting here, they're sitting here. We, I'm gonna add something to that. Realize that, yeah, okay, we want you to sample all the wells Roger had up there. We won't be able to just physically do that, and also the money wise, realize that it's coming out of, Gelman is not paying for that. They had a settlement agreement that they paid $500,000 some years ago, so any new stuff is not covered unless extreme, in certain circumstances that have to go to court, But
Do the people here north of, just past 14, do these people here, when you sample them, do you show them what this deep well is here? Do you show them the values for this?
We answer homeowner questions if they're home and they have questions of us.
But you don't proactively say, here's what's a few
we
hundred feet
give
away.
them information on where they can get that, but
Yeah.
no. Again, Washtenaw County does the actual legs on the ground,
But this is pretty deep. I don't think any of these homeowner wells are that deep.
220, get the look.
Do we know how deep these wells are?
A lot of them, we have born
We have well records.
logs, well records, we have those.
Okay, I can't click on it and find that, okay. I can get the elevation.
I have those, what logs are available,
Well, I guess
grouped and have-
Kevin's got some of these. Well, that can't be right. Total depth 1.
no.
100.
190, well, there's 190, that's
That's pretty
it's
deep.
getting pretty close to the 225. But again, this is not in the, this isn't in the database.
Well,
These little white dots aren't in the database. These are ones I scraped out and put in to another layer, scraped from Kevin's Rockworks data.
Well, I'd have to, I'm not gonna absolutely positively say every one of the wells we've been sampling the last couple of years is.
Well, it's not in the database, because if it was in the database, you would have seen it.
Well, I'm just saying, I put in the wells that Jenny has sampled that we have analytical since 2014. I've tried to put.
Well,
put all
but you
those-
realize, of course, you might have put the data that you had available in. But if you don't have an XY, they're not gonna show up in this map.
Okay,
So we have no idea. A third of the data, a third of the wells. You wanna see where a third of the wells show up? They show up here off of
I don't have
Africa.
XYs for most of those
right.
locations.
It's by address.
Yes.
That's what's in the database.
Right.
You go to an address.
Right,
And,
here's where all these show up, over here off of Africa.
What?
Well, because it's 0, 0. It's latitude, longitude, 0, 0, right there. This
We're
is,
gonna-
this
So
is
I want
where
to keep the
line
meeting going,
is.
because we don't have enough time to cover all the agenda items, but Roger, if you have concerns about
Well, that is one of our
the
concerns.
well data, maybe bring it up just to
And
me.
somehow Kevin
And-
got some of them, and I got some of them from the township, so we could at least have an approximation of where they were, because we have the township parcel. So, there is a way that you can say, this is not the official location. We could color code it and say, this is approximate location, but we're not doing that.
Roger, I volunteer again. I have a multi-$100 Magellan GPS unit at home that will give you, wherever that is, it'll tell you where it is within 10 feet.
So, Why don't you
And
go
a
around?
surveyor, well, I volunteered to do that, and nobody called me back.
Oh,
But
well,
a
I'll
surveyor-
take you up on that.
a
I
surveyor-
volunteer you to go out with every sample
Well,
once to each location and correct the XYs, because there's some XYs that we have in the database that are clearly wrong. We've seen a couple already today.
my name and phone number's in the database.
No, but you have to be proactive and volunteer talk with Dan and say you'd like to go out and do that.
I would rather turn it around and say, if anybody wants to know where the well is that they currently couldn't find if they had to, I'll be happy to show up with my,
Well, what I don't understand is why is the company that's doing the sampling not doing this at least
well,
once?
beyond that,
Why is Gelman not corrected their XY data?
They have corrected some over the years.
Over the years, well, I could just go around and do
Roger,
every
why,
sample, just
you
do
know, for the
correction.
same reasons when you ask questions, why does Gelman not do this? They are,
They
again,
don't have to do it.
they,
That's where we're stuck here. We've got, they're
I- you
able
know, I
to
can't
give us
answer.
bad data and no data and get away with it. It's their dioxane in our waters of the state. That's another rant.
I just want to interject something. I went with Jenny one time when she did sampling. She trained me how to do it. It's very interesting, if anyone wants to go with her.
where are you going?
In April.
is it you or is it, you're
It
changing?
may not be me this
Yeah, I
year.
thought you were talking about.
Okay.
We'll see.
Transitioning.
Although we have enough samples.
I
I've
beg
heard.
Is there another announcement coming up here?
I'm sorry?
You said you may not be going?
I took on a new role with
Oh.
the health department,
Oh,
so I need to offload some of my old workload, so we're
okay.
disseminating
But
some
you're
of
still
like the water
coming here.
sampling. Yep,
Oh, okay.
yep.
Roger, one more question. I'm looping back to a comment that somebody made a while ago about, or a question really, about, is it possible to differentiate Gelman dioxane from somebody else's dioxane? I'm asking hypothetical questions. I don't know the answer. I don't know that anybody knows it. But the dioxane we're following is processed dioxane. In other words, somebody didn't call up DuPont and order 10,000 gallons of dioxane pure
Oh, yeah,
and
they
then pour
did.
it on the ground.
No, they use it to make their filters.
I know,
But it
I
already
worked there,
was
remember?
used.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my question, based on that. If it's processed dioxane, there's at least half a chance that it's contaminated dioxane. Has anybody ever
Seen if there's
done
a,
spectroscopy, I know the word,
yeah.
on Gelman effluent? That's about as technical as I can put it in words. Let's look at this,
Right.
okay? If there's copper in it, we ought to be able to tell whether or not the dioxane at the airport is coming from makeup or Gelman, because you do spectroscopy there and it'll show a spike at copper.
Right.
This is not rocket surgery.
So there is a fingerprint.
That's a good question. Well,
I would like to see spectroscopy from the pond, if it hasn't all been drained. Raw sample spectroscopy.
well, that's long. I mean, the problem with that is that the other compounds that might have contaminated dioxane might have broken down and left the dioxane.
You can pick them. Copper won't break down, that's an element.
But it's not going to be as mobile as dioxane.
If it's dissolved in dioxane, we're using bromate to try and figure out how the dioxane
I wish
dilutes.
Bob was here. He might have some insight into that. The other one would be Dan Bignell, because he did mass spectrometry to find the contamination in the first place. So we got that in the notes. That's a good point. Pick that up.
They're
Kathy?
tracing, just for a second, they are tracing prehistoric mined by Indians before BC, copper, using spectroscopy today.
Right.
That's 2,000 years ago. It's again, this isn't,
Well, somebody's got to do that research, though.
fine.
So,
Well, you'd think this should be a warning signal.
we could put that up.
Someone should be doing this, and
But I'm not sure
You had
if
to
that's
pay them
gonna, there's a better way to find if the dioxine's coming from Gelman, and that is to go to the Honey Creek, and if you find it there, keep tracing back. Like you would if it's in the groundwater. If you find a hit in groundwater, you're gonna wanna know where it came from. Because we understand that this dioxine is moving in narrow channels.
Yeah.
Whether, it probably does in the surface water to some extent too, in cold weather, where it doesn't mix as much. So, in groundwater, if you find it at a certain elevation in a certain area, you wanna go back in that up gradient and find where it's coming from. And we haven't done that in a lot of cases. We don't know where this dioxine from 465 DuPont Circle came from. And it's a darn good thing there happened to be a homeowner well there to detect it. Otherwise, this whole offshoot here that you see, it looks like a thumb going up. The only reason this got drawn that way is because that homeowner well, one homeowner well, detected the dioxin that caused this to be evaluated over the years. Do you see any other homeowner wells? Do you see any other wells that were there at that elevation, that homeowner wells? No. And what they did is they put in some monitoring wells around it that may be at the wrong elevation.
All right, I'm gonna put you on hold. Go. Sorry.
Okay. I apologize for getting here late. My electric car range was impacted by the cold weather. So I had to stop
can
on
talk
the
about
way
electric
here
cars
and,
sometimes.
yeah, take a lift. Anyway, Vince Crusoe is on vacation, he's away, but he asked me to bring forward a resolution to request a Superfund full preliminary assessment. So, and to have CARD look at it and then possibly take it to the city of Ann Arbor. So I don't know where in the agenda it's appropriate to insert that.
Say that again, Kathy.
Okay. All right, but Vince, he's written a resolution for the city of Ann Arbor to have it introduced, and it is to, the city council directs and authorizes the city administrator and the city attorney to petition the US EPA for a full preliminary assessment of the Gelman-Danaher 1,4-dioxane groundwater contamination. And then there's another resolve about contacting the new governor to reverse course on the previous petition. I guess it is. So I don't want to read all the language. But anyway, he has a resolution and he just asked me to bring it to CARD to
I
review.
think it should be a future agenda item, and
Yes,
then it needs to
definitely.
be presented to the CARD members ahead of time before any sort of vote were to be taken.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to follow up
Vince
on
should send
my
that to
commitment.
CARD
CARD.
as a discussion item for next meeting.
And when is the next meeting?
March.
Tuesday, April 2nd.
First Tuesday of the month.
Can I propose that we skip ahead to DEQ
I mean,
updates,
mid-April
just to make sure we get
April,
to
yeah.
those?
Second.
That sounds good to me.
All right, so we spent all the time on dioxane in Arbor's drinking water. It's kind of important. The priorities list,
Well, Jenny just suggested that we jump to DEQ updates, just to make sure that we get those in.
okay.
Yeah.
What else do you have, Dan?
I have a couple of bullets. I have the Allen Creek drain sampling results. I got them last week. I sent them out to local lugs. I brought copies here tonight, and I will send out tomorrow, kind of to the group, the lab data sheets. I have, if people want to take a look, I have a little table. I don't have enough for everybody.
Just give us a verbal summary.
Of the 7 locations that were sampled, we had positive detections at very similar at West Park Southwest. If you remember, we had gotten in historically 4.4 and a 19. The 19 started at Evan Pratt from Washtenaw County started asking questions. So we came up with this 6-month sampling work plan. At that location, we did get,
So where are we talking about here?
it'd be West Park Southwest, the manhole within West Park, just to the west of the pond.
So this guy right here?
No, this is manholes. This is manholes in the Allen Creek drain.
Right, here's the Elm Creek drain.
Yeah. So we're within,
Southwest,
where's West, okay.
West Park.
Okay, yeah, we're up in the, along that, right along the walkway between the pond and 7th Street.
Up here?
The southern, where's the West Park Pond?
It's that whitish strip right to the
Yeah, see,
the right.
that's the walkway right there. If
Okay.
you go to the right, you'll see little manholes, and one of those right there, that manhole right there.
Oh, okay.
Historically, it had 4.4 and 19.
Mhm.
This month, we sampled, or in February, we sampled it. Gelman is conducting this sampling. DQ is there doing some splits for dioxane, and we're also analyzing for full scan volatile organics. Gelman had 16, we had 15 for dioxane there. We did also get a couple of positive detections there with our, similar to some ones back in 2017, ethylbenzene and styrene, we're at 1 to 2 ppb each. So then we got another positive along Chapin Street to the west, down gradient, to the east, I'm sorry. It's getting the end of the day here. Chapin Street is right there. There's a manhole right at the entrance there, near the entrance of West Park there along Chapin. We got a positive detection there of 8.7, Gelman got 8.8. And then we had, we also sampled then.
Okay, and that could be explained because you've got another branch of the Elm Creek joining there, so that could dilute it.
Well, if you're going into manholes, that's the actual Allen Creek pipe.
Right.
Yes.
The Allen Creek drain pipe, yeah, up there, yeah. Now there's certain.
That's where that other branch is too? Up pipe?
Up here?
Yeah, okay.
Well, just realize then, there were 7 locations. All the rest of the locations are to the west, up gradient, on different legs of that. Near the intersection of Maple Ridge and Arbor View, was non-detect. The intersection of Wildwood and Arbor View was non-detect. The intersection of Murray and Washington was non-detect. 8th Street and Waterworks, right by the school, there's a manhole. Off of 8th Street. We sampled that manhole there because we had some detections near there in the shallow groundwater investigation a couple of years ago. That was non-detect in that manhole. Mayfield and Wildwood Park, all the way up in the park, in the ravine up there. There are manholes up. We took the furthest manhole to the west, up gradient, and dioxane was non-detect there. We did get some positive detection of ethylbenzene and styrene. We're expecting some of the other organics. It's a storm sewer. It drains parking lots and some other things. So, and then those were the results for this month. And we are sampling then the next sampling event. There are 6 sampling events scheduled. The next one is May 12th.
So let's get back to the samples themselves.
March 12th, I'm sorry.
You said, so you had 14, 15, 16, something like that here at West Park. And then up gradient, it was all non-detect?
Yes.
What does that tell you?
It tells us that it's not, coming from up gradient. We would gather some more information to see if groundwater is impacting the Allen Creek drain up gradient. But we'll be gathering information and see if there's a seasonal variation in any of these and see.
So where could it be coming from?
Yeah, the 15.
The 15 could be, one of the questions that started us down this path is it groundwater impacting the Allen Creek drain? So that's a possibility.
So if we had, say, a 7.2 boundary line, you think it would be down here somewhere?
Well, keep in mind, he's sampling a storm drain, not the groundwater there. They are separate.
I know, but we were concerned that
Because
the
they did shells.
storm drain was picking up dioxane that was coming in further up gradient, like up here where we have 300 parts per billion.
Mhm.
And you've proven that it's not coming from the drain.
Roger, we have one sampling event. So
But
I'm
you have
doing
several
6.
samples along this pathway.
Right,
is that
and
right?
I would like, before I start making, and we prove and it's not coming from that, I want to, that's why we came up with, let's do it 6 times. Here in the winter, in the wet, in the spring, and then we're going to be through June or July, and so we're dry. So, I don't want to go out and say, we're proving anything yet, but
Well, no, but
your
you can make a
questions are valid.
hypothesis.
Is it still
You can
works
make a
at 19
hypothesis now and then do some testing to prove it.
Well, we are testing 6 more times at these same locations.
But what's your hypothesis? Why are you doing the testing?
Because of the positive detection.
So what's the hypothesis? What are you trying to prove or disprove?
Well, we're trying to gather some information to see if within the Allen Creek drain, is there something up gradient that was loading to that 19 that was detected in West Park?
Okay, and so far you haven't found it.
So far, we have not
Okay,
found it.
that's what I need to do. As far as groundwater, there's no groundwater sample to be done here.
No, we have not, if you, by groundwater sampling, if you're saying putting in monitoring wells or temporary wells, we have not done that yet.
Here's a hypothesis for you. How can groundwater get into Allen Creek drain between here and where there's non-detect up gradient? How can groundwater get into the drain? You find it in the drain here. Find it in the drain, right
Yeah.
here, right? How can water get into Allen Creek drain between, where was the last person, like 8th Street with the next one up? Like here?
Chapin.
8th and Murray, and down the South Murray, Chapin is the furthest east,
So here's 8th Street. So you had 8th Street, you had non-detect here,
south of that,
down here.
down where those wells are, 11, 10, 12.
Okay, so there's feeders into this main line, is what you're saying, right?
Well, I don't know the structure, exactly how many feeders are coming into Allen Creek.
But that's what I'm wondering. Are there feeders that
Potential.
we're not sampling?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay, so I know that they're concerned about having maps out in the public of all the feeders to Allen Creek drain, but do you have access to that? Do you have access to where where the
There
pipes
are
are?
published maps of the Allen Creek drain and feeders, as you're describing them, that are public. I know,
Well, this is the only one I could find. And all I see is a main line here, and you're saying there's feeders into this.
I've seen maps historically. Remember when a couple of years ago we had Allen
Yeah,
Creek?
well, I don't have electronic versions of those. So
I
I
don't
can't
either.
show it on Google Earth.
I'm not sure I have
Think for
electronic.
security.
So it's hard to talk about it.
I want to point out something. Wasn't just DQ picking the things. We had discussions with Washtenaw County and the
Yeah, I
city.
think-
And
I
Evan
think-
Pratt was a big, made some
He knows all those
suggestions of,
drains.
hey, what about here? And easy, I will tell you that we strategically located some to answer, so they were easy access, but, for safety, but also answer questions about up gradient. Are we getting any indication of groundwater impacting Allen Creek drain? So, again, I don't want to start saying, we're proving anything right yet. I'd like to get the whole thing done. And we'll take a look every month and see if something jumps out and is odd, is odd, and discuss it with Washtenaw County, the city, and see if, hey, maybe we ought to sample this other manhole, here too. But
So there's
right now-
other manholes that you skipped over.
Oh, I'm sure, yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I would recommend that you sample those other manholes until you find where the dioxine's coming from.
Well, we're not gonna do that unless we get some indication that we should by data. We're gonna do our 7 locations, 6 events and then see where that takes us.
If you get another non sequitur like you did in the last sampling?
What do you mean
Well, a non sequitur, it's just Roger's question altogether. If you got a drain that's not permeable, and you got dioxane here and none here, and it's all in the same drain,
It's coming from somewhere.
that's a non sequitur. Exactly.
Okay,
Does
I wanna-
Evan
I
have
wanna-
a hypothesis?
Yes,
You
I want to
can't-
point out
Don't know.
in the discussions, Allen Creek Drain is not non-permeable.
Data.
It
We're not
is,
gonna make
it
any
is a mixture of new pipe, old pipe, clay pipe, you know, it is, and that's what Evan has said. So, that's why we picked the locations, and to give us a first indication to see, hey, are we getting some dioxane seeping in, and then that will take us down potentially additional investigation activities related to what we're seeing. That's why we picked 6 of them, 6 times because you, as you've seen here, you have one, basing it on one, you know, you have a lot of questions. So we thought 6 times during a seasonal variation here in the spring and summer would give us some good information. Once we have that information, if it starts pointing us in, you know, down a direction where we may have to say, hey,
Dan, do you have collaborative data on this? Like, what were the rain events just
No,
up to the
no, I-
time of sampling?
I have not, we have not compiled that yet.
Okay, but you have that data's available.
Yeah, I mean, the weather events in Ann Arbor are available. We have some, you know, work plan or what we've discussed with Evan, you know, we're not gonna try to sample if we know there's a rain event was the day before or day of, it's an extreme rain event. We're gonna try to wait a couple days. Evan has identified that within a couple days, you know, that the rain event effect in the Allen Creek drain is dropped off. And so if you are getting some input, some positive detections, that is a time that you're likely, you know, that could prove that there's groundwater impact. So we're going to do certain steps, but we haven't correlated any precipitation events with what we saw.
I feel
So
bad
far.
that you have to answer for Evan.
Well, what do you mean answer?
Well, it'd be nice if Evan were here, that he could
Oh.
ask some of the questions.
Well, it was a group effort. He had asked about that 19 and we started discussing that way, and there was concerns not only with him, but also, I believe.
So how many, you said 6 more?
Six events total.
6 events, so you had 1
5
event, so
more,
you got
yeah.
5 more.
And the next one is March 12th.
When are they gonna be done?
So February,
February, March, April, May,
yeah,
June,
I
July.
gotta do my hands.
July. So
yes.
far, July.
And if you remember, we've committed at the last card meeting to, we will give these out for each event. We were gonna wait until the end, and you voiced some concern that you didn't want that. So we will send out the data as it comes. I'll put it on the webpage, get it into the database. Again, you just gotta wait for me to get it in there, and it comes fast and furious at once a month for me, and to get it into the database. And then we've promised a report in September, a summer report where we'll compile everything. What I've generated so far is, and I'll send this out as an Excel table for a quick evaluation. This is my first shot at it. I'm getting some Excel experts in our office to basically make a working table. Mine, you got a 2-finger hunt and peck Excel guy here. So we will have.
Need a volunteer?
No, I have it at our group. So she is. You've met her. She's here. She comes to the card. Sarah Nedridge. And she's a PhD out of U of M. And we've hired her the last year or so, and she is very nimble with programs like that to present data. So
Better generation for that.
Well, do you have any other updates?
Yeah, I have.
Excuse me, just one moment.
Sure.
For things like this, is it possible to send a file and we can just put the file in the minutes. Right now, we're playing with paper, and that's antique. There's absolutely no reason why we couldn't get your Excel, da-da-da-da-da,
Yeah, I was
XLS.
going to send that out.
Okay.
And that's why I was caveating, this one is mine, so it's not gonna be, it's gonna change, because we're gonna keep compiling for everything. But no, that's what I was saying, I'll send out not only the hard copy of the actual lab data sheets, Gelman gave me, is a table, their results are in a table, a PDF, and I'll send our lab, DEQ's lab data sheets, as I've done for monitoring wells and that, to the group, and I was going to send the Excel file to if you want that.
So you have to take
Well, I'm trying to expedite
Gelman's
the minutes rather than.
PDF
Yeah,
Otherwise
but it's
you're gonna end
seven,
up
Roger,
scanning.
it's
and
seven.
transpose the data
It's seven.
without typos into your spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, we're in 21st century.
Dan, will you post the individual monthly samplings on the website
Yeah,
too?
that's coming up.
Well, so it will be on the DEQ website, so I don't know that the minutes necessarily has to include individual sampling.
I'm not even sure I know the DEQ website address, so go ahead.
I'm sure they,
Yeah, I
can
can
get
help
to
you,
all that.
Diana, yeah.
You can get it
because
through his page.
SRSW
or,
has links
Sign up
to all our
for
stakeholder
the, then he'll
sites.
send you, if you sign up for the monthly or quarterly or.
Listserv.
Yeah,
Sign up for the
that.
listserv, you'll get a
Thank
notice
you.
when data goes on the webpage.
Right, do you get things from DEQ now?
I do.
How many here don't? Because you can do that on the DEQ website. In fact, you can do it on the SRS.
Mhm.
You have a direct link right here to subscribe to. Card email notices.
Yeah, so Diana, you, maybe others
Okay,
don't
never
know.
mind.
Yeah, that you'll want to sign up for it to get notices of the updates, and they'll have a link to the DEQ Gelman website.
Mhm.
And here on the SRSW website, the left column has the related sites, all the other stakeholder sites, so that whenever you want to get to county, township, whatever, you can go here and one click, you can go to the other website.
And check your spam folders, because sometimes things go to my spam.
I have two more bullets real quickly here. The next DEQ quarterly report is it's gonna be in April. It's just too much to, it will be the fourth one, and we'll have trend analysis like the second one did, but we are expanding that trend analysis at the request of stakeholders to, it won't be just graphs, it'll have some statistical trend analysis on selected wells. And we all have heard already that, requests at the last meeting I haven't generated a list, the final list yet, but, we've heard that you would like to see that list and potentially make suggestions. And so I'm working on that, but it's not going to be till April that I'm going to be able to get all that together to get it out. And then just a notice, there have been some questions in the last 6 months about other VOC and SVOC compounds that have been detected historically in water supply wells and that type of, and Dan McNeil specifically had a email and some information. We are going to be adding that to selected wells, water supply wells in the 2019 sampling that Jenny will be doing for the DEQ. So not only will 1,4-dioxane be tested for, but we will also collect sample bottles to test for full scan VOC analysis and SVOC analysis, and see where that takes us.
Where are those going to be,
We haven't decided yet.
generally?
Well, where we had a lot of we're going to try the locations that Dan had identified.
242 Church?
I don't remember he had several locations that he had historically identified. We're going to try those.
For the resident, or for the drinking water well sampling. So
Right.
it won't be 242 Church, it'll be like along Elizabeth.
Yes, right. And he had, any of the water supply.
Liberty.
Yeah.
West Delhi, we have like 100 that we're sampling this year.
Whatever happened with the 242, that it was high and.
Okay, 242. I'm
That's
lost.
the church, they have a
The
date.
church with the indoor volatiles.
Were we ever gonna test for that or ask Gelman? I thought we
I thought
requested that formally.
That's the one don't we sample 242?
We do not, they are served by municipal water.
Okay, I'm
You're
mixing
talking
them
about
up.
vapor intrusion.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's a daycare in there and stuff.
Oh, okay. I thought you were, I'm going on,
Drinking water,
242 is on the property.
Yeah,
The
the
former-
church.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's been a long day. We aren't planning on right now on them. They are on, city water. We're talking about water sampling, water supply, water sampling. So your question about additional investigation activities on the Gelman property and adjacent properties that have been sold and are redeveloped,
Mhm.
that's still, we have not,
So we
I
have to
can't
wait
give you,
for
say-
the owner to ask for it, or is that what, I can't even remember, it was months ago.
It-
We approved the letter.
And then nothing ever happened after we.
We haven't taken that to where we have committed to a date of additional investigation activities.
Is that a state responsibility or the property owners?
It is, in reality, it is the property owner's responsibility. If you develop a property, you have due care responsibilities, it's called.
Something
And so
like
they
that.
have to maintain the property, whatever they have to do, investigation or sampling and maintain the property so people, it's used safely and people are not at risk, whether that means drinking water, whether that means playing in the dirt, whether that means some vapor.
Breathing the air.
Vapor intrusion. So in the ultimate, it is the responsibility of the property owners. They start the process by doing a baseline environmental assessment, submitting that to us, and that gets them some liability protection. But that liability protection is, they won't be held responsible for cleanup, but they still have responsibilities. It's called due care, if you look up in the regs, due care to make sure that they use the property and safely, and people aren't exposed for that. So now, you get into the gray area about certain locations with the people using properties that the DQ has come in and done some things because people were at immediate risk or that way. So, but right now, we haven't scheduled any additional investigation. Gelman gets more complicated because we sure as heck, if additional investigation are required, we want Gelman to do it. And so that's where we stand right now.
And I would have to go back and watch the video from when we talked about it, but I believe the levels he presented were below
Yes.
the state screening levels.
Right. So that's one of the driving forces. We try to utilize the screening levels, criteria, whatever we have. That yes, you can always have questions about the data. But that's what we utilize to identify immediate risk. If it's something that's above a screening level, we're going to take a quicker look, quicker look about doing something. And all the information that we had, you guys are questioning, well, you should get more. Well, I understand that, but all the information we had did not identify that an immediate risk.
Yeah, when they did the BEAs for the splits, baseline environmental analysis, for the soil testing and stuff, they didn't test anywhere near where some of these really high concentrations were, like the burn pit and things like that.
Yes, you're right. They took a limited number of samples.
Right.
I realized too that the owner of the other property that's developed right along the road, Mark Smith, he's doing testing as due care responsibilities himself. So he has not gotten anything. It's a little more difficult for him because in his operation it's chemical. He's as chemists and they're doing stuff in there. So, but he is, he is doing some testing, and again, he hasn't identified anything that is above a screening level or a criteria that indicates an immediate risk. And I talked with him, well, often, but,
Well, does he still own the church, or did they buy that from?
no, the church is a separate entity, yes.
It was split into 6 parts. The church combined 3 of those parts
Yeah.
into this parcel because they didn't like the address for one of them, which would have been
And again,
666.
realize that
Yeah, for a church, that's not.
yeah, they realize that, during this process, it was, being the Gelman site of environmental contamination was not hidden. I mean, it was out in the open.
Oh, sure.
And in fact, when the properties were first sold to Mark Smith, I mean, there was a long process for DQ to approve, to get involved and approve that sale because we put restrictions. and,
I just
so-
remember Rita being concerned because there was daycare there and pregnant women, and I just wondered what happened with that. But-
It's the same concerns have been identified. We have not identified an immediate risk. It's not that we're dropping it, it's just,
Well, this seems pretty positive that you're doing this VOCs testing.
Yes,
So thank you
we
for
thought,
adding that.
I mean, there was enough questions and, I mean, Frank, I had the same questions too. Historically, I had this. Let's see if someone is at risk in the water supply wells from something other than dioxane. Because we have a 7.2 criteria for dioxane, but there's all kinds of volatile organics and semi-volatiles that are lower than that. That are in the, in the 2 ppb for vinyl chloride, or is it 4? I don't remember exactly, but below that, benzene at the gas stations is 5. The criteria is 5. The drinking water number is 5. So.
And they had benzene on this site too, originally.
Yep.
You haven't gotten any response yet from the company on their secret sampling they were doing here on the core and
No.
Marshy.
No, we have not.
shallow sampling.
I don't have any new information.
All right.
Can I just go back to the VOCs? You're using Dan Bicknell's work plan as kind of a template or?
Well,
or just a starting
what we're
point,
using,
or-
we're looking at some of the locations that he identified,
Okay.
some historic data, and see if those are still available. Is it in our sampling? We'll add it if it's available to sample, potentially. Jenny and I just haven't come up with a final number yet, where we're going to do that. It'll be at selected locations, because, it's 3 different tests, 3 different sample bottles, if you want to say, multiple bottles, but the dioxane is done at 8260 SIM method, in the DQ lab. The VOCs are 8260, and the SVOCs are 8270. So 3 different tests have to be done. So you collect the sample and for example, the semi-vols, SVOCs, they are amber glass, I think 1 liter amber glass bottles, as I remember.
And you said about 100 drinking water wells?
Well, we're not testing 100.
Oh, okay.
We're going to select it.
Oh, okay.
We're going to do the 100 for dioxane,
Yes.
just like we normally do. But we're we're doing some work, and we'll figure out where we want to take a first crack at this at VOC and SVOC. At likely locations, based on history, based on any of the information we have, let's try and look here first.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, as you develop those, before you cast it in stone, I think it'd be a good idea to run it past the group.
What do you mean, the wells we're thinking of?
We can via the Concord email list, but it's gonna have to be a quick turnaround because I have to order bottles and we're sampling in April.
Yeah.
So-
I had anticipated here in March, Jenny, Jenny and Kristen, we would come up with where we're thinking.
Yeah, I think that'd be good to send it to the Fire Corps
Okay.
and let people weigh in before you order the bottles.
Is sampling done for any of the other chemicals that we know Gelman was putting into that settling pond?
Well, that's some of the VOCs, SVOCs are what started to drive Dan and looking around. So yes, some of them will be there. We're not sampling on the Gelman property for those specific chemicals yet.
Can you
So
have
what I'm
Gelman
thinking of
do
what
a
was
one-time?
I'm thinking it was
Sample.
pumped out of that pond and sprayed on the
Roger,
ground.
we have asked that. I think I pointed it out in the past. you know, all the questions that we are getting from stakeholders, and do you have, you know, do you know, have historic, and they've given us historic information of when doing their, you know, how they got down to the one, just dioxane as a main contaminant of concern. So I have historic sample results from pumping wells and monitoring wells and some selected stuff on site, but it has been in the file. They have not chosen to.
Do you keep a record of when you ask these things?
Well, I have emails and phone notes, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a table.
I think that would be useful when it gets to court.
I'm also wondering with the new Attorney General, new administration of the DEQ, there's been any, how do I say this, philosophical, administrative change in terms of
It has-
pushing them a little harder? Pushing Gelman a
Oh,
little harder?
oh, that way. I mean, I believe there has been some
Philosophical.
whatever word you just said, but it hasn't come down to, you know, the AG being ordered to, let's do something different. Now, one of the reasons I think that is because we are still in the confidential negotiations, and now, if those do not come to fruition, you know, I mean, just my perception is potentially, you know, but we haven't been, you know, identified right now there've been questions. But I think it's, since the new administration came in, it's been only how many months? End of January, is that it?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still in their first 60 days.
Yeah, so I don't, you know, we
Sure.
have gotten some questions specifically about Gelman related to some questions they have gotten from public, but I don't think.
It's a process.
It's a
Couldn't even
process,
get
and I mean, with a lot of the agenda, I think that they're trying to do, you know, the total environment, I mean, they've done the environmental, the governor and everybody tried that environmental and got pushed back, and they had to do it a second time on some of those name change and some, where they're gonna stress some of the monies and that type of thing, so it hasn't come down to an individual sites yet.
So don't write this down, but Jeff,
Remember that it's recorded, so, okay, I won't write it down, but.
there are meetings between the Attorney General's office and people in Ann Arbor on this subject coming up in the very near future.
Good.
So
I'm glad to hear that.
this is good news. I mean, it's good to have that welcoming ear to listen to that conversation.
All right, so I got 2 minutes to do my 45
Thanks for
minutes.
that reminder.
Is there anything you need
Is
to
the
quick hit on that
Attorney
can't be tabled till the next meeting?
Excuse me, is it the Attorney General's office that is involved in these confidential? Or
The Attorney General-
Does DEQ have its own legal staff?
No, our legal representation is the AG.
Is from the AG?
Attorney General. You know him, Brian Nagel. He comes to the quarterly meetings. He is the Attorney General that is assigned to the Gelman site. So he is part of those confidential negotiations, just like I am, and just like Kristen and Jenny as being Washtenaw County. The city's people were involved, and then the Huron River Watershed Council were also
No,
involved.
that was purely a procedural question.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
Here's one that's time dependent, that I have as low priority, but EPA is proposing a revised definition of waters of the United States. Which has to do with smaller bodies of water. And that's something that's being discussed right now.
Is this
Dan and I are
would
both-
exempt a lot of small farm ponds and things from?
Yeah, and also Gelman ponds.
I've only heard about the agricultural aspect.
Yeah, of course you know. You don't hear about the
Well, yeah.
industrial
Right.
ponds.
Right, of course.
So I'll postpone some of that. Basically, I've got the new Google Earth mashup done, just what you've been watching me pull up, and I've got some more layers to add to that. And I want to do some training of how to use those. So anybody, you know, this, we have all this information, but I don't think it's being used for decision-making. Clearly not being used for decision-making. And it should be. This is the 21st century. We have ways to,
I like your 3D one, that,
yeah, well, it's
Well,
4D actually, because
show the
we have
slates.
time involved. And one of the key ones that I think could help the DEQ is all the cross sections that were ever created for this site. All of these, each one of these yellow lines here indicates a cross-section diagram was created mostly by Gelman. So to show how the water moves through the various aquifer layers. And in some of those cross-section diagrams, you will see data that you will not see in the database. Because somehow, Gelman doesn't share that in the database. They only share it through some of their cross-section diagrams. In particular, the one I always bring up is this location here, which of course doesn't show because they didn't give us the XY for it. But it's the GSI 9802, which had the highest ever concentration east of Wagner Road. It's right next to where the Lockwood development's going to be.
not gonna be.
Not gonna be.
Where the Lockwood development was proposed.
No, it's not completed
Yeah,
yet.
so are you aware that there's a proposal in the old Michigan Inn site?
No, I'm not aware of that. That's up here.
It's
Look, right there.
they're looking at putting two hotels where the Michigan Inn used to be.
Right. I mean, that's another portion of the film that's over here, I guess it
So,
is.
back to your waters of the United States bullet point. You know that the U.S. Supreme Court has granted cert for a case that challenges whether or not pollutants moving from groundwater to a water are regulated by the Clean Water Act.
That's current.
Yeah, it was February 19th. It was announced that they accepted these two. Well, this is
coming
horrible news.
Yeah.
So this is well-settled law for a very long time, and they could take these two cases that just apply the established law and say, well, if it's in groundwater, that's not actually a water of the United States as the Act defines it, and actually affect the EPA's ability to regulate that. So.
Holy. Well, there's a third revelation I didn't read.
Great night for you.
And I apologize, I forgot to put it on the agenda. The Clean Water Town Hall meeting is Thursday.
Thursday.
At
6 o'clock.
Scioto Township
Scioto
Hall.
Township, it's official this time.
It's
Yes.
6 to 7:30.
Representative Donna.
Yep,
was in.
Representative Donald Litinsky is hosting it.
Somebody from the DEQ.
Yep, DEQ, DHHS, and Huron River Watershed Council, and me, the county health department.
The person that, I don't know if I'm coming, but the person who will be there is Jerry.
Jerry Tiernan.
So my supervisor, he's here at the quarter.
Yeah.
He's also more of the PFAS contact,
Yeah,
so
it'll
he, you know,
discuss
there's a lot of,
PFAS and
there's
that.
that way, but he knows about the
All
Gelman
the
side too.
fun stuff.
So.
I'm such a downer. And the next meeting is Tuesday, April 2nd, another evening meeting at 6 p.m.
So we're going to postpone this CART priorities list, which I had up on the board here. These are the 157, 160 items that we've gleaned from our past meetings with the DEQ over the years. And we boiled it down to, what, 8 summaries of these? But we're still going to track all the detail ones. So when you talk about asking the company for something, where we're taking some of these concerns, we would like to be able to match up that with when did the company learn about some of these concerns. And so when we finally get the concerns addressed, we can check it off. So this is like a to-do list that we're gonna be using.
You had sent out.
And the other thing about this is that because it's out, this list is gonna be out there, it's out there right now for anybody to examine. We will expect that we won't be adding a new, if there's a concern that's already been brought up, we want to reference the previous times that was brought up, rather than keeping adding to the list. There's enough new concerns that pop up, like already had a couple today, where you're sampling in the Huron River. This list is gonna grow. We don't wanna have to be dealing with duplicates for another 50 years. It's bad enough we got as many duplicates as we do now. So we're trying to make this manageable, but we still wanna have all these addressed, because they're real concerns, and they really will help the cleanup. So, yeah, let's wrap it up. Anybody got any last minute things they want to talk about? Anybody else? I don't think this was a productive meeting in the sense we learned some new stuff. It was unproductive in that we didn't get through the agenda like we did last time. Always next month. The beat goes on, and so does the Dioxane. Thanks everybody for coming.
In case it was covered in here, we're late, but when you get the information to us about the public comments period,